Taking a deep breath, she began. When I first went to Earth, I thought human art was unrefined, lacking the perfection we value. But I was wrong. Human art is not about flawless technique. It is about capturing moments, emotions, and the beauty in ordinary life. The hall was silent, her words surprising everyone. Zalora had always valued art that was extraordinary, beyond the reach of everyday life. To hear Entrala speak of ordinary life as beautiful was shocking. She could see the doubt in their eyes, but also a hint of curiosity. Entrala continued, describing the simple paintings of families, the street musician's melody, and the kindness of strangers she had witnessed. She explained how each piece of human art told a story, showed real people with real emotions. Human art is not only something to look at, it is something to feel, she said, her voice soft but steady. It is messy, imperfect, but powerful. As she spoke, she felt a strange sense of peace. This was the first time she was sharing art not as a critic, but as someone who truly understood it. Her heart was open, her words sincere. She no longer felt the need to prove herself. She only wanted to share the beauty she had discovered. To finish her presentation, Entrala unveiled a new piece of art she had created. It was a simple painting, far different from her usual work. Instead of complex patterns and perfect forms, it showed an image of a family sitting together, laughing and talking. The colors were soft and warm, capturing a feeling of comfort and love. The audience stared in silence, unsure of what to think. This was not the type of art they expected from Entrala, their best artist. But as they looked closer, some felt a strange warmth in their hearts, a connection they couldn't explain. They saw not just a family, but the feeling of home, of togetherness. Slowly, a murmur of appreciation filled the hall. Entrala's heart soared as she realized they were beginning to understand. For the first time, she saw her people seeing art in a new way, not as something perfect, but as something meaningful. An elder in the audience, known for being strict, stood up and nodded at her. "I don't fully understand this human way of art," he said thoughtfully, "but I see that it has value. You have shown us something new, Entrala." Entrala smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. She had taken a risk, shared a part of herself, and it had touched her people. Her journey to Earth had not only changed her, but had also opened the hearts of those around her. As she left the stage, her mind was already filled with ideas for new works. She wanted to create more art that spoke of emotions, of life, of connections. She no longer cared about perfection. She only cared about truth. And so, Entrala began a new chapter of her life. Inspired by the human spirit, she created art that touched the souls of her people, bridging the gap between worlds. Her journey had started as a mission to judge humanity's art, but it had ended as a journey of discovery, of life, love, and a new kind of art that would forever connect her to Earth. The planet Zalora was known across the galaxy for its incredible art and unique artists. One of the most famous among them was Entrala, a tall, graceful alien with skin that shimmered like stardust. Her eyes sparkled with every new creative idea, and her works were celebrated for their originality and beauty. She was admired, respected, and in some ways, feared for her fierce opinions on art. One day, at a grand intergalactic art exhibition, representatives from many worlds gathered to showcase their best artwork. Different species brought sculptures, paintings, and performances from their cultures, each piece reflecting their planet's style and emotions. Among them were some representatives from Earth who had brought famous pieces from human history. The hall was filled with excitement, each species curious to see how others viewed life, love, and beauty. When it was Entrala's turn to speak, she took her place on the main stage, a large holographic display behind her showing various human artworks, paintings by Van Gogh, sculptures by Michelangelo, and even modern digital pieces. She looked at them, tilting her head with a smirk. "These are the best Earth has to offer?" Entrala's voice rang through the hall, her tone mocking. Such simple lines, basic colors. Where is the depth, the feeling? The crowd murmured, some aliens agreeing with Entrala's critique. But the humans in the room felt insulted. They exchanged glances, some shifting uncomfortably, others frowning in silent anger. One of the human representatives, David, clenched his fists, but held his tongue, determined to show respect despite Entrala's attitude. Natrala continued, her eyes narrowing as she examined a painting by a human artist known for capturing emotion in landscapes. "What is this supposed to be? Trees, mountains, a sunset?" She scoffed. "These are simple things, everyday sights. Where is the soul? Where is the energy?" David couldn't stay silent any longer. He stepped forward and spoke with calm, controlled words. "Natrala, with all due respect, these are not just images. These are pieces of history, reflections of human experiences and emotions." Natrala laughed, her voice echoing in the large hall. "History? Emotions? Do you really expect me to believe that?" She turned back to the crowd, spreading her hands wide. "Art should make you feel something intense, something beyond your understanding. It should take you to another world. But these human artworks, they are plain, they are weak." Several humans in the audience exchanged looks of frustration and hurt, but David remained determined. He took a deep breath and said, "Perhaps you haven't truly experienced human art, Natrala. You see it, but you don't feel it." Natrala rolled her eyes. "Oh, and what is there to feel? Perhaps humans do not understand what true art is. You may create what you call art, but it lacks true depth, the kind that touches the spirit." The humans felt humiliated, but David had an idea. He looked Natrala straight in the eyes and said, "If you believe our art has no soul, then I invite you to Earth to experience it firsthand. Let us show you what human creativity truly means." A wave of surprise swept over the crowd. The idea of Natrala visiting Earth to see human art in its own environment intrigued many, but most doubted she would accept. Natrala, however, looked at David with a mixture of amusement and challenge. "Very well," she said with a smug smile. "I will come to Earth and see this so-called art of yours. But I warn you," she added, her voice dripping with confidence, "if it is as unimpressive as this, I will have no mercy with my critique." With those words, she turned and left the stage, leaving the humans with a mixture of hope and worry. David and his team knew that they had a chance, a rare chance, to prove the worth of human art. They were determined to make Natrala see its beauty, even if it would take showing her every piece of art Earth had ever created. As the exhibition ended, the humans began planning Natrala's visit, knowing this would be their one shot to change her mind, and the way the galaxy viewed human creativity. The time had come for Natrala to visit Earth, the human world filled with what she called basic art. Although she agreed to the visit, Natrala's heart was still filled with doubt. Could these humans really impress her, the finest artist in all of Zalora? She didn't think so. Yet the invitation intrigued her, and she was eager to prove, once and for all, that humans simply did not understand true art. Her ship, an elegant vessel that sparkled like a jewel, was ready for takeoff. Her entourage of assistants, fellow Zaloran artists, and curious friends filled the ship. They, too, were eager to see what the humans had to offer. In their minds, this trip was just a pleasant adventure, a chance to explore a new world, not an artistic challenge. As the ship journeyed through the stars, Natrala couldn't help but think about David's confidence. His words played over and over in her mind. You see it, but you don't feel it. What could he mean by that? Art was all about technical skill, about creating something new, something otherworldly. To her, emotions were a side note, not the main focus. Feeling? She thought to herself. What does feeling have to do with art? After several days, the ship finally entered Earth's orbit. Natrala's entourage gathered around the windows, gazing down at the planet's blue oceans, green forests, and vast, bustling cities. They had never seen such a lively planet before. "Look at that," one of her assistants said, pointing to a mountain range. "It's beautiful, in its own way." Natrala simply shrugged. Beauty is only skin deep, she thought, preparing herself to be unimpressed. Their first stop was the famous city of Paris. As Natrala stepped onto Earth's soil, she was greeted by David and a group of human artists eager to share their creations. They led her to the Louvre, one of the most famous art museums on the planet, housing centuries of human masterpieces. Natrala and her entourage entered, surrounded by grand sculptures, ancient artifacts, and paintings that had withstood the test of time. As they walked through the hallways, her entourage admired the variety and diversity of styles. But Natrala remained unimpressed. She looked at the Mona Lisa with a raised eyebrow and a small smirk. "Why does this painting capture so much attention?" she asked aloud, causing a few humans nearby to glare at her. David, who had been watching her reactions closely, said, "It's not about the technical skill alone, Entrala. This painting carries mysteries, emotions, and meanings people feel deeply. That's what makes it special." Entrala gave a small laugh. "Meaning? Mystery? Perhaps humans need these things because they cannot see art for what it is." David led her to other iconic works: Van Gogh's Starry Night, Michelangelo's sculptures, Monet's peaceful water lilies. With each piece, Entrala found something to criticize. Too simple, too chaotic, too colorful, as if none of them met her high standards. She seemed immune to the magic humans saw in their art. The next stop was New York City. They visited modern art galleries and underground studios where emerging artists poured their souls into their work. Some pieces were raw and abstract, others were minimal, and a few were loud and bold. Yet none seemed to reach Entrala's heart. She kept glancing at her entourage with an amused expression, as if to say, "I told you this would be dull." David watched her closely, noticing a wall she had built around herself, a refusal to understand. "You're not really trying to see it, are you, Entrala?" he asked one day, frustration showing in his voice. Entrala raised her chin, slightly offended. "I am here, am I not? I am seeing it all." "But you're not letting yourself feel it," David insisted. "Art isn't just about looking, it's about connecting, experiencing what the artist felt when they made it." Entrala sighed. She didn't understand what David meant, but a tiny seed of doubt was starting to grow. What if there was something she was missing? What if these humans really had something in their art that she had overlooked? But she wasn't ready to admit that. Not yet. As their tour continued, David arranged one last visit, a small, lesser-known gallery in the heart of New York. Unlike the grand museums and galleries, this place was humble, almost hidden. He was hoping that here, Entrala might finally catch a glimpse of the human spirit she had missed so far. With each step, Entrala grew a little more curious, her defenses slowly starting to crumble. The small gallery David had chosen was different from any Entrala had seen. It was quiet and dimly lit with only a few visitors. This was no grand museum, no famous gallery. It was a modest space tucked away between tall buildings in a busy city. Entrala's entourage exchanged confused looks, wondering why they had come here. After all, if Earth's greatest art hadn't impressed her, what could a small gallery offer? But David had a plan. He wanted Entrala to see something raw, something that came from the heart. He believed that only in this small, humble setting could she truly understand the depth of human art. They walked inside, and the first thing Entrala noticed was how close everything felt. The paintings were not grand masterpieces, but simple, deeply personal works. Some were small, created with quick brush strokes, while others had colors that seemed almost chaotic. The entire room felt alive with stories. David guided her to a series of paintings that had been done by a single artist. Each painting showed scenes of ordinary life: a family sitting around a table, children playing in the streets, an elderly couple holding hands. The colors were not as vibrant as those in the famous museums, yet each image had a warmth, a depth that was hard to ignore. Entrala studied the paintings closely, her gaze lingering on one piece showing a mother cradling her child. The mother's face was tired, but there was love in her eyes, a love so strong it seemed to fill the entire painting. Entrala felt an unfamiliar tightness in her chest, a strange sense of connection to this unknown woman. "This," she began, her voice softer than usual, "this feels different." David, who had been watching her reaction carefully, nodded. "This is the kind of art we wanted you to see. It's not perfect, it's not grand, but it's real. It shows our lives, our struggles, and our love." Entrala's fingers brushed the air in front of the painting, almost as if she wanted to touch it. She had never seen anything like this before. On her planet, art was always about perfection, about creating something new and extraordinary. Here, human art was about capturing the ordinary, making it feel important and beautiful. She moved to another painting, this one of a soldier returning home, his face tired and his body weary. There was no celebration, no glory, only the relief in his eyes as he hugged his family. She felt a deep ache in her heart, a mix of sadness and understanding. "Why would someone paint this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Because it's real," David replied gently. "Because sometimes life is hard, and art helps us make sense of it. It's not always about beauty or perfection. Sometimes it's about facing the truth. Entrala's gaze softened, her usual confidence shaken. For the first time, she realized there was something more to art than technique or style. She felt a connection to these scenes, as if the people in the paintings were reaching out to her, sharing their feelings, their stories. They walked to the last painting, a simple piece showing a young girl standing in the rain, holding a wilted flower. Her face was sad, yet there was a small spark of hope in her eyes. Entrala stared at the painting, feeling an unexpected tear gather in her eye. "This girl," she murmured, "she's holding on, even though everything around her is dark." David nodded. "Exactly. That's what human art is about. Finding light even in darkness, holding on to hope, no matter how small. That's why we create art." Entrala's heart softened, her earlier judgment crumbling. She had spent her life chasing perfection, thinking only of the extraordinary. But here, in this quiet gallery, she had discovered something she had never felt before, real emotion, raw and unfiltered. Without another word, she turned to David and whispered, "I was wrong about human art. I never understood its meaning. Thank you for showing me this." David smiled, seeing the change in her eyes. The once proud, skeptical artist now looked humbled, touched by the very art she had once ridiculed. For Entrala, this was more than just a visit to Earth. It was a journey of discovery, of realizing that true art wasn't always found in perfection, but in the beauty of life itself. Entrala left the small gallery with a heart that felt both heavy and light at the same time. The emotions she had seen in the paintings still lingered with her, making her feel as if she were seeing humans for the first time. She had come to Earth expecting to find simple, unrefined art, but instead she had found something powerful, something she hadn't even known she was searching for. David noticed the change in her eyes. "There's something I want you to see," he said gently. He led her to a busy park nearby, filled with people of all ages. Some were laughing, some were deep in conversation, and some were just sitting quietly, enjoying the day. As they walked, Entrala observed everyone around her. She saw children running and playing, their laughter echoing through the air. A young couple sat on a bench, lost in their own world. An elderly man fed the birds, his face calm and content. Each scene was ordinary, yet filled with a quiet beauty she hadn't noticed before. "These people, they're so different from each other," Entrala said, her voice soft with wonder. "Back on Zalora, everyone follows the same path, the same ideals. But here, each person seems unique." David smiled, pleased that she was beginning to understand. "Humans are all different, yes, but that's what makes us who we are. Each of us has our own dreams, our own struggles, our own stories. That's why our art is so full of emotion, because it reflects our lives." Entrala watched as a young woman painted on a small canvas, capturing the scene around her. The strokes were rough, the colors simple, but the image seemed to come alive with feeling. For the first time, Entrala understood that human art was not about perfect technique. It was about capturing moments, emotions, and memories. "I spent so long thinking I knew everything about art," Entrala admitted. "I thought art was only about skill and innovation. I never realized it could be this." David chuckled softly. "Art isn't just about creating something new. It's about connecting with others, about showing them a piece of yourself. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's simple, but that's what makes it real." They continued their walk, and Entrala noticed other small acts of beauty around her. A street musician played a soft melody, filling the air with music that seemed to reach into her heart. She saw people smiling at each other, strangers helping one another, small gestures that showed kindness and care. These simple moments spoke to her in a way that grand art exhibitions and polished sculptures never could. As they walked, David told her stories about human life, stories of struggle, hope, love, and loss. He talked about how humans found strength in difficult times, how they celebrated small joys, and how they held on to hope even when life was hard. Entrala listened closely, feeling a deep respect grow within her. "This is what it means to be human," David said. "We're not perfect. We make mistakes, we feel pain, but we also experience joy and love, and our art reflects all of that." Entrala nodded, finally understanding the true meaning behind human art. She had spent her life chasing perfection, thinking that only flawless art mattered. But now, she realized that art was about the journey, about capturing the essence of life itself. It was about telling stories, about making people feel seen and understood. For the first time, Entrala felt a desire to create something different. She wanted to make art that captured the emotions she had felt, the things she had seen, the beauty in the ordinary moments of life. She wanted to create something that could touch others, just as human art had touched her. Turning to David, she said softly, "Thank you for showing me this. I never thought I would feel this way about human art. But now, I see its beauty. And I want to create something like this too." David smiled warmly. "Art has no boundaries, Entrala. It doesn't matter where you're from or what you believe. If you can touch someone's heart, you're creating something powerful." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Entrala stood silently, taking in the beauty of the moment. She no longer felt like an outsider on Earth. For the first time, she felt connected to these humans, to their world, to their art. In that moment, Entrala knew her journey had changed her forever. She had come to Earth to prove human art was unworthy, but instead, she had found something far greater, a new understanding of life, love, and the meaning of true art. Entrala returned to her spaceship with a heart full of new ideas. The journey to Earth had changed her in ways she couldn't have imagined. She was no longer just an alien artist with a mission to judge human art. She was someone who had learned the power of emotion, connection, and storytelling. Her world, once built around perfection, now felt incomplete without the richness she had experienced on Earth. Back on her home planet of Zalora, Entrala was greeted with curiosity and excitement. Everyone wanted to know about the strange human art she had seen. They expected her to laugh at its simplicity, to tell them how inferior it was. But Entrala knew she couldn't do that. She had felt too much, seen too much to pretend human art had no value. Entrala prepared for a presentation in the Great Hall, where the most influential artists of Zalora gathered to hear her story. Standing on the grand stage, she looked at the eager faces around her. In the past, she would have felt pressure to impress them with her knowledge and skill. But now her goal was different. She wanted to show them the truth she had discovered,